But so they continued to commit all their crimes, but now, of course, there was evidence. And of course, that's exactly why Trump created the Space Force. All of this is connected. All of this is connected. And like I've said before, I do believe that this was all a sting operation right from the beginning. It's like that video where Jerome Corsi that I was talking about not too long ago, where he talks about this, that the military was ready. There was so much that those such agency and military intelligence had so much evidence, so much sickening, disgusting proof of not only treason, not only high treason, not only high corruption, but they had all of the information on crimes against humanity, all of this sick depravity. They knew everything, and the generals were ready to move and perform a coup d'etat in this country. And the only reason that they didn't, the only reason that they stayed their hand was because of Donald Trump, because Trump decided. They approached him. And from what I understand, there were a couple of different tests of trust on either side that had to take place for Trump to trust who they really were. This, I think it's, as Cliff High calls it, the self-assembled collective. These group of generals, however you want to refer to them, they came to Trump. They had to test his honesty, his patriotism, his loyalty, his courage, and he had to do likewise. He had to make sure that they were for real and they really knew what they were talking about and so forth. But after that exchange took place and Trump knew what he was involved in, he made the decision that he was going to run for president to prevent this country from falling into a... And the military generals at the time were completely aware of this. That had they gone through with their plan of a coup d'etat, that would have resulted in an unavoidable how widespread it was. But given how many guns, given how well armed this country is, I mean, that's, if very quickly, and I don't think there would be any controlling it. So that wasn't the best option. But of course, had the generals not planned on doing that, they knew exactly what these monsters had planned, was the complete destruction of humanity. So it really was their only hope was to perform this coup d'etat until they spoke to Trump. And the plan was formed. Now, I think that this whole thing, this entire time, in Trump's entire presidency, from day one, from the moment that he came down, but forget even his presidency, from his candidacy, from the moment that he came down that escalator, that man was playing a role. This has all been a sting operation. I believe that he intended to win the first time. They understood, the generals, they came to understand that he could actually win and that he was the only one that could actually pull this off. But that when they became convinced that he could actually win and get into power, that was stage one of the plan. That was only stage one, to demonstrate to the world what you can do when you actually attempt to put things right side up again, when you actually implement common sense policies, America first policies, policies that are in the best interest of the people. People had to see, despite whatever the media said about him, despite how much everybody tried to brand him as the devil, he knew that he was going to face all that. But regardless, he also knew that he was going to be showing the world the difference and that people were not going to be able to ignore the difference, especially when they got to phase 2 of the plan, which was Trump's planned defeat in the 2020 election. When I say defeat, of course, I put that in quotation marks. This was all a plan. This was all a sting operation. Trump set this whole thing up. The White Hat set this entire thing up by controlling all of the key players, by setting traps that they jump directly into because they're 8 steps ahead, because they've got technology that's far beyond anything that the enemy could even dream about. Why? Because this is a galactic struggle. And we are aligned with non-terrestrials, with positive non-terrestrials who have given us directly, I believe, the technology that has enabled the defeat of the enemy and made it possible for us to be so far ahead, for them to be so far ahead of the enemy, which enabled them to reverse everything that the enemy did, to re-engineer everything they did, like a jujitsu move, to turn everything they did against them. Trump is an absolute genius. And as time goes by, we're going to get more information. I guarantee it. We're going to find out exactly, when the history, of course, is told, the true history, the role that Trump played in this whole situation. But there's no changing. I mean, I have to examine both sides, as I always do. There's no changing what's actually going on underneath the surface. Doesn't change the fact that on the surface is an absolute disaster. I believe that this is just so insane that people, when they read this, when people see this, people who aren't awake, they open up the newspaper or they're scrolling through their phone. If that doesn't get people's attention. But that's the thing. I was about to say that nothing will, but I've said that so many times. That's just it. It just gets so insane that you start to wonder to yourself, is there ever going to be a point when people are going to hear something on TV and they're finally going to say, that is the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. That doesn't make any sense. Because I think that's exactly what the White Hats are trying to do. They're trying to get people on their couches watching the TV to look at the TV and go, what? That doesn't make any sense at all. I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to wake people up to finally get it. That what they're hearing on TV, they have to stop listening to every single thing they hear on TV and believing it to be the gospel truth. And how outrageous does it have to get? It's just unbelievable. And then you've got the Taiwan military, as I believe a part of this pantomime, I think, is going to be a military confrontation between the United States and China, and I do believe Russia will be involved as well. You've seen, they're building up. You've got buildups on the border of Israel. You've got buildups on the border of Iran, of Armenia, of Russia, of the Ukraine. You've got, like I said, the Taiwan military is on high alert. So the other major marker, of course, we've talked about, the financial, and I think that's that's another major shoe that's going to drop very, very soon in October. When exactly, the timing, I don't know, but I do believe the financial crisis is coming very fast, which is one of the major markers that some of the main folks out there, like 107 and Gene, have been talking about, these major markers that have to occur before we get that are going to indicate that we're in the eye of the storm. You have all of this military buildup going on, and that's a major indication. I think that this pantomime, how this is actually going to play out, I don't know, but I think that this is a white hat operation. I do believe that the white hats are in Russia, I do believe, and in China. President Xi and President Putin, I do believe, are part of the alliance. This has been well established. These are the leaders of these countries. So I believe that that this entire thing is being engineered. And I also believe that it's very possible that it's going to, I'm not suggesting there may not be some forms of military strike, but I do believe that when we see those in the United States, my theory, again, and I've had this corroborated by, certain information out there and certain sources, that it's very plausible that we'll see some kind of physical destruction on the United States, but it wouldn't surprise me that where we see it is going to be exactly the type of structures that the white hats would rather not be there moving into the future. And of course, the structures we're talking about, you're very well aware of. If you watch Gene's decodes on all of these structures all throughout the world, all of these satanic buildings, they got to go. They can't exist anymore. Do I believe that this simulated wipe all of these sites off the face of the earth once and for good? Yeah, I think that's a strong possibility. I definitely think that's a strong possibility. And in I need to get more information about this, for a follow-up, really, but I was reading that yesterday, South Africa's highest court was poised to free the continent once and for all from the central bank, and of course, by extension, the cabal, paving the way for the rollout of the quantum financial system. And of course, NESARA and GESARA. So we are living through an absolutely incredible time, as you know. I mean, there's so many things going on for people who are awake, for people who are aware. I mean, you can tell how animated I am by all the stuff that's going on. It's absolutely, it's exciting. I mean, it's in some ways it's scary because I can sense that we're really getting close to that precipice. And I think that any day now, we could really go over the edge and really get into the eye of this storm. Again, how this is actually going to play out, what's going to happen first, what date it's going to happen on, nobody knows, folks. And if you're trying to figure that out, well, good luck. And if you figure something out, please let me know. But everybody that I've talked to is scratching their head wondering the same thing, but at a spiritual, at a gut level. We have to remember that what's really happening, when we scroll back and we remember, we zoom out, what's really happening here is that humanity is ascending. The consciousness, the collective consciousness of humanity is ascending, is rising into the fifth dimension. And we are transcending the dark magic, the evil, the deception, the propaganda, the mind control, the debt slavery. We're transcending all of it collectively. That's what's happening here. And even at a deeper level beyond that, what's really happening is that God himself is intervening to provide for and to assist humanity in the ascension process. Because I do believe that God, and I do believe that God has planned something entirely new for humanity. All of my research and in my spirit, in my gut, I do believe that God is going to do something that is completely unprecedented throughout all of history. And yes, I think at the end of the day, as this dumpster fire rages all around us, and as this pantomime makes it seem as if this corrupt, evil world is about to completely crumble once and for all, which on one level is true, and makes it seem as if there's no hope left, that's when I do believe that God Almighty will show himself to the people. And the people are going to understand once and for all how we got here. And the reason that we got here, yes, was because of the cabal. But because of the cabal, their ability to turn us away, to turn so many of us away from God. And that is something that we need to learn collectively as well, and we can never allow to happen again. All of these higher density beings out there, they all understand. The reason that they're higher density beings is because they understand that any service to self, and Gene Decode talks about this a lot, is futile. The only type of service, the only rational act is to serve God, is to serve, like Gene says, the high